When it was released in 2005, Resident Evil 4 took the world by storm. Not only was it full to bursting with engaging characters and terrifying enemies, but its transition to more action-focused gameplay helped bring a whole load of new Resident Evil fans into the fold. However, whilst the original game is still perfectly serviceable to say the very least, it is starting to show some signs of age, which is presumably why Capcom have taken the decision to remake it from scratch. But what do you, the player, need to know before the remake is released? Well, we here at Team TripleJump have been on another one of our fact-finding missions so that we can illuminate the situation for you. That's a Los Illuminados joke, there'll be plenty of that to come, don't worry. For this list, we've trawled the internet to find all of the information we can about the upcoming Resident Evil 4 remake so that we can share it with our discerning viewers, that's you. If you want answers, we've got them, and if we don't got them, then it's likely they don't exist, or at least not at the time of writing, anyway. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are 10 things you need to know about the Resident Evil 4 remake. Number 10. What's the story? From what we gather, the story of the Resident Evil 4 remake will be quite similar to that of the original, but with some added twists and turns to keep players on the edge of their seats. The story of the 2005 release follows RCPD cop turned DSO agent Leon S. Kennedy as he travels to Europe to rescue Ashley Graham, the daughter of the President of the United States of America. However, once he arrives, he finds that this is far from a simple political kidnapping and is confronted by scores of angry villagers, all of whom are linked to the sinister cult Los Illuminados, who worship a parasite known as Las Plagas. Their leader, Osman Sadler, reveals he has infected Ashley with the parasite and plans to use her to take over the world, and it's left to poor old Leon to sort out this sorry mess. Whilst the original game had a somewhat campy atmosphere, the Resident Evil 4 remake is set to be a little more serious. So whilst the essence of the original story may well remain, it's going to be a heck of a lot spookier. Hope you've got your brown pants at the ready, that's all I'm saying. Number 9. Who's the big bad? In the first 3 main Resident Evil games, the main antagonist was the Umbrella Corporation, an evil pharmaceutical company whose forays into bioorganic weaponry have caused the likes of Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, Claire Redfield, and of course Leon S. Kennedy a whole bunch of problems over the years. However, in Resident Evil 4, the Umbrella Corporation takes a short break from unleashing nightmare fuel upon the world, allowing Osman Sadler to have a crack at villainy instead. Although don't go thinking Umbrella won't feature at all, keep your eyes peeled. Sadler is the leader of Los Illuminados, the parasite-worshipping cult that inhabits the village in which Resident Evil 4 is set. More on that in a moment. Little is known about his life before he became a cult leader, other than the fact that he has experience with bioorganic weapons. So what does this maniacal, plague-loving baddie want? Oh, nothing much. Just to take over the entire world by infecting world leaders with the Las Plagas parasite so he can control their minds. You know, the usual. Considering Sadler's in control of an entire village of farmers, plus the decidedly Napoleonic Ramon Salazar, Leon's really going to have his work cut out if he has any hope of saving Ashley Graham. We're sure he's up to the task though. Number 8. Where is the game set? Unlike the first 3 Resident Evils, which all take place in and around the fictional Raccoon City in the US, Resident Evil 4 and its remake go international, with all of the action happening in the aforementioned Spanish village, as well as a castle and island in the vicinity. Once a quiet farming settlement, the region is culturally isolated from the rest of Spain, which is why it looks a little bit 19th century. The village itself has a long and colourful history. It was once under the control of a technologically advanced society, but this fell to Los Illuminados during the medieval times. During the 15th century, the prominent nobleman Salazar led a crusade to rid the village of Los Illuminados. He confined the Plaga parasites to a sealed underground tunnel and had the cult's followers executed en masse. For hundreds of years, the village remained under the rule of the Salazar family, and by the end of the 20th century, control had fallen to Ramon Salazar. Unprepared for the responsibilities of leadership and isolated from the rest of the world, Ramon was targeted by Osman Sadler, and before long, the tunnel containing the Plagas was unsealed, and the village had fallen under the control of Los Illuminados once more. Good work, Ramon. You had one job. Number 7. Will my favourite heroes and villains be returning? If by favourite heroes and villains you mean Leon S. freaking Kennedy and scores of bloodthirsty Ganados, then yes, they will. Even if you haven't played the original Resident Evil 4, you'll probably still recognise protagonist Leon Scott Kennedy. After all, he's considered by many to be an icon of video gaming, and alongside Chris Redfield, is the poster boy of the franchise. Leon made his first appearance in 1998's Resident Evil 2, where he had a less than successful first day as a cop following a T-virus outbreak in Raccoon City. Since then, he starred in Resident Evils 4 and 6, the Resident Evil 2 remake, and Resident Evil The Dark Side Chronicles. In terms of Resident Evil 4's villains, we've already mentioned its big bad, Osman Sadler, and there are plenty of others to keep Leon's guns nice and warm. The trailers have shown us the parasite-controlled villagers who will attack outsiders on sight, known as the Ganados, that's Spanish for cattle, as well as Ramon Salazar, the brainwashed lord of the village, and the terrifying hulking chainsaw man known as Dr. Salvador. There's also a brief shot of Del Lago, that's the creature of the lake. Fan favourite character Ada Wong is also set to return for the remake, though she'll no doubt be caught up in some duplicitous plot or other. Classic Ada. Number 6. What is the gameplay going to be like? Resident Evil 4 marked something of a turning point for the mainline Resident Evil series, eschewing the fixed camera in favour of a third-person over-the-shoulder view, and steering gameplay away from survival horror in order to focus on action and gunplay. It was a risky choice on the part of the studio and could have upset long-time fans of the series, but thankfully it paid off, with players old and new praising the series' change in direction. When it comes to the remake, the third-person viewpoint is being retained, though it will be more in line with the recent revisits to 2 and 3 we've had. Combat is set to be very similar to the original, with Leon relying heavily on firearms and roundhouse kicks to get the job done, though the devs have revealed that a brand new parry mechanic is also being introduced, and it works on chainsaws, seemingly. Those of you who enjoy suitcase Tetris will be pleased to hear that the attaché case is making a return as well, so you'll be able to have hours of fun trying to fit all of your worldly possessions into a tiny trunk, as is the merchant, who now accepts gems as well as money in exchange for his wares. Good business sense, that. Number 5. What changes can I expect from the original? Obviously, players can expect some serious graphical improvements, as is true of most remakes, but there are also loads of other changes from the original that we're very excited about. Firstly, the controls are getting a much-needed overhaul. Now don't get us wrong, the controls in the original Resident Evil 4 were fine, but by today's standards, they do feel a little bit stiff and clunky, especially to new players, so a refresh is very welcome. The team at Capcom have also revealed that the Resident Evil 4 remake will have a much darker tone than the original. Whilst describing the game's atmosphere, producer Yoshiaki Hirabayashi said that the studio wants to nail the feeling of loneliness and fear of not knowing what lies ahead, even more so than the original. For those of you out there who love your action but are worried that Resident Evil 4 Remake will be sorely lacking, don't be, because Hirabayashi also confirmed that there will still be plenty of thrilling battles for fans to sink their teeth into. Put simply, it would seem that the Resident Evil 4 Remake intends to honour everything that its predecessor did well, whilst tweaking the formula a bit to suit a modern audience. Number 4. Do I need to have played the 2 and 3 remakes to get the most out of Resident Evil 4? In short, no. In long, no. That was just a long no. Of course, we absolutely recommend that you do play both remakes, though consider getting Resident Evil 3 while it's on sale, as it's a bit on the short side, but neither of them are required reading for the Resident Evil 4 remake. For those of you who aren't familiar with the games and don't have time to play them before the 4 remake is released, allow me to give you a quick rundown. Resident Evil 2 is set a few years before the events of 4, and follows rookie cop Leon Kennedy and college student Claire Redfield as they attempt to escape from Raccoon City after it becomes overrun with T-virus infected monsters. The game has a total of 4 different campaigns, 2 from Leon's point of view and 2 from Claire's, though all 4 bear similarities to one another. Resident Evil Remake is set at the same time as Resident Evil 2, but instead follows Jill Valentine as she tries to evade Nemesis, one of several bioorganic weapons that has been sent to rid the city of survivors. Although Resident Evil 4 is set in the same universe as its predecessors, there's little crossover in terms of story, and so whilst the 2 and 3 remakes are more than worth a play, not playing them won't stop you from having a great time with Resi 4. Number 3. Will there be special editions? Do bears undertake their most basic of bodily functions in large areas of woodland? Of course they do! So watch where you're stepping when you're wandering through the forests of Resident Evil 4. Oh, and yes, there will be special editions too. Naturally, you can just pick up the standard edition, which comes with the base game, plus a special gold version of the attaché case, and a handgun ammo weapon charm if you pre-order. Those of you who have a few extra dollary dues in your bank accounts could go for the deluxe edition, which comes with the base game, the pre-order bonuses, as long as you do pre-order, plus a whole bunch of other cool stuff. This includes 4 different costumes for Leon, 2 additional weapons, an additional treasure map, the original game's soundtrack, which can be switched for the new one, and a sweet pair of sunglasses. Finally, if you're feeling super flush, you could go for the Collector's Edition, which gets you the base game, everything in the Deluxe Edition, plus a steelbook, a map, an art book, a digital soundtrack, a poster, a code for extra DLC, and a Leon S. Kennedy figurine, meaning you can finally welcome everyone's favourite hunky boy into your own home. Number 2. When will Resident Evil 4 Remake be launched, and what platforms will it be on? At the time of writing, the Resident Evil 4 Remake is set to be released on March 24th, 2023, so we only have a short time to wait before we can catch up with Leon Kennedy and all of his Ganado mates. The launch date was announced in June 2022, and since then Capcom have held firm, so it's looking pretty positive for the game's launch in March 2023. With that said though, delays can still happen, so please don't shoot this particular messenger if the game's release does get pushed back. In regards to what platforms the game will be available on, it's great news for all current-gen players, as the title will release on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Windows PC. Sadly though, if you're still on the previous gen, you'll only be able to play the remake if you have a PlayStation 4, as it's not being developed for the Xbox One. But the good news is, if you do buy the game for PS4, you'll be able to upgrade it to the PS5 version for free as soon as you're able to get your hands on the elusive little console. And number 1, I can't wait until March for the launch. What's new in the world of Resident Evil in the meantime? The great news is there's plenty going on in the world of Resi to keep fans busy until the RE4 Remake launches at the end of March. In October 2022, Capcom released the Winters expansion for Resident Evil Village. This came with an all-new third-person mode for the game, though you still can't see Ethan Winters' face, new playable characters for the Mercenaries mode, and the brand new story expansion, Shadows of Rose, which follows a now 16-year-old Rose Winters as she goes to the eponymous village to confront her demons. Mac owners can finally get in on the action as well, as Resident Evil Village launched on that platform just before Halloween. Between October and December 2022, Capcom is making several Resident Evil titles available via the Nintendo Switch Cloud service, starting with Village on the 28th of October, that's probably happened now by the time this video goes out, and concluding with Resident Evil 7 just before Christmas. Finally, the multiplayer shooter Reverse, Resident Evil Verse, I don't know how you say this out loud, went into early access in late October and is free to play for anyone who owns a copy of Resident Evil Village or Resident Evil Village Gold Edition. All of that then ought to keep you occupied until Leon S. Kennedy bursts back onto your consoles in March. I, for one, cannot wait.